So a lot of you are asking me, what is this great reset? What does this mean? So I've shared a lot in my previous reels about these off-planet races that have been here forever. They like to copy us because they have no creativity, because they are no longer connected organically to source, to our creator, to God, whatever you want to call the creator of this matrix. They are no longer connected. So they have to create everything artificially. I've shared that before. So this is where everything that we're seeing open up around us right now in terms of artificial intelligence and everything like that, this is all coming from them. They have to mimic everything that we're embodied and able to do as a divine intelligent being. They're copying. And they're trying to sell it to us and make it sound like we can become like them when it's actually reversed. So a lot of you know I've shared earlier that this year I'm not going to hold anything back. I know that the information that I do share does land on so many people's ears and they get it. And I know they want to hear more. And the ones that it doesn't resonate with, I no longer need a warning. I no longer need to put up any kind of like, look out, something's deep coming, because this is meant to land through frequency with all of you. So if you can understand the information that I share with you guys and you can somewhat get it, or something inside of you says, okay, I want to know more, but like, I know there's something here. That means the frequency that I'm sharing this information on is coming from 5D and 6D and higher. You're able to transmute that within your own bodies. That in itself should let all of you know, if you're doing that right now, that you're all indigo and starseed children. You have more than 12 strands of DNA activated in your DNA blueprint, whether or not they're all open and plugged in yet or not. So an example, just so you know, when I say that they're artificial and they can't create, so they're mimicking everything they know about us. And there's lots of things about us that we don't know, but they do. Because when you blank slate somebody's mind, which they did back at the Tower of Babel 25,000 years ago plus BC, this is when they can tell us any story they want. They can make up anything they want. They can change our books, which they did, and put in whatever the hell they want to put in there. And then we kind of listen to them and think, oh my goodness. And because they kind of showed up in their like higher plugged in DNA, because they do have higher strands of DNA plugged in, they shut ours down at 4, okay? 3 and 4 strands. They're able to look like gods, even though they're not. And they're able to, show us technology that we can't remember. And this is how they've been able to control us for so long, because they're plugged into higher strands of DNA than we are. And they've told us so many lies because they blank slated our minds that we believe it. So like I've shared to you, they like to mimic, they can't create, and they also like to throw things in our faces because their egos are so big. They literally think that they have this all in the palms of their hand, and they've underestimated humans completely. However, what they did, and I'll give you an example, was when the last 2 years took place, and they came out with multiple versions of the C virus. If any of you remember this, they came out with one called, a version called Omicron. I remember hearing this thinking, wow, really? Because there are an off-planet race called Omicron. Just like there's Draconians, just like there's Anunnaki, just like there's the Illuminati. There's all different branches of them, Leviathans. And they're called Omicron. So they're the ones doing a lot of the stuff on this planet right now. So they literally named the virus Omicron virus. It was a different strain. Do you guys remember that? So just like the Omicron, using things that are their own race's names, the Great Reset, they're using as part of their agenda, because they're hoping, that their version of what they want to happen on this timeline does work out, which means their Great Reset, which is what you're seeing almost playing out right now in front of us, where they're trying to get that transhumanism movement, where they want to get these things in our arms, where they want to put chips in our head, and they try to sell us on this artificial intelligence and that this will make you superhuman. You've heard me talk about this before, but the Great Reset is what they're trying to say, like the New World Order. Everyone must have the same income. You'll have 15-minute cities, and that, everyone has the same religion, which is Satanism, which is what they're trying to push right now. That's what they're calling their Great Reset. But again, they're copying what's truth in our matrix. Now, a lot of you who are following me know that there was books, 1984, WEF, Klaus Schwab makes books all the time. There is books, movies in our history. going back 20 years ago, 30 years ago, and more, basically talking about this one world order and, the end of days and, judgment day and all these things, right? And it's because these races understand time cycles. We don't. We don't remember 2,000 years ago because our minds have been wiped. And yet they've got millions of years of memory. And they understand what took place in Atlantis and Lemuria. They have our ancient past. They've removed it all on purpose. These great floods that took place on our planet were not done by meteors hitting it. And it was definitely not done by just normal nature having these massive things go on Earth. They were all done on purpose to completely sweep the Earth from any evidence. And in these books, they're predicting what's going to happen. Now, it doesn't take a genius to understand, they're not predicting. They're literally putting their map, their agenda out there. But nobody's paying attention anyways because they know how to hijack our perception and they know how to manipulate our minds. So they're putting this stuff out there in plain sight. Most of us know this. But the ones that are not as awakened as you guys are, they won't even notice this or understand this, because this was part of what they wanted to do back in like 2001 to 2003. They were hoping to get in place in our grids something called a frequency fence. A different one than what you and I are talking about and you've heard me talk about. This was supposed to be able to be put in place using certain crystal pylons in our ley lines and grids in our Earth, where they're able to send certain low frequency pulses that actually play havoc with the EMF in our own bodies. Okay, so this is how they can hijack our perceptions and our minds. Now, without going into too much detail, if anyone's wondering, we do have help from the Guardian Alliance. We do have off-planet races that are helping us, because if they weren't, we would have been gone in 22,350 BC. So this is where this ascension cycle that was the next one after the one in Atlantis that never took place. This ascension cycle has been waiting and waiting with these races. They have been planning and they have been waiting for this period. This is the time where these stargates open. These are like openings in our portals, in our planets, okay, where nobody understands this. Nobody really understands this. So they look at people like you and me and they think we're nuts. They honestly think that, there are no such thing as these except in sci-fi movies. Well, where do you think these sci-fi movies are tapping into information? Where are they getting their, creativity from? They're being downloaded one way or the other from either the Guardians or the off-planet races like Draconians to give us information. Okay, so what this frequency fence was going to do at the end of the day, to just make it all come together without getting into the technology, it was supposed to be able to emit a frequency that controls our mental body, meaning that it takes away our thinking, which, as you most have noticed, most humans now don't think. This is why a lot of you ask me, like, why aren't people able to see what we see? Because most of them, this frequency has been coming out through different versions. It's come out through MK Ultra. They're blasting it now through different ways. They are able to get this out to the masses, but it depends on the human being and their DNA activation. If they're indigos, if they're star seeds, this isn't going to work too well on them. So they're getting a lot of the humans on this planet in this mental frequency fence, where they'll get them to do anything they want and conform without any type of resistance. This is what they wanted back in 2001. So knowing the ascension cycles here, knowing why you keep hearing Agenda 2030, no one really understands what those numbers mean. Why 2030? Now when it's 2028. You're seeing a huge movement on this planet, right? With a massive genocide agenda, with trying to get everyone to believe one satanic religion, to have people have 15-minute cities. They're putting things in our foods that's part of what was given in this, because the people that aren't willing to do that, they still need to get a hold of you. They still need to get you hijacked, if you will. So they're going to put that stuff everywhere, in our air, in our foods, in our water, so that they can get that altering mRNA toxic weapon into our bodies. Because this will work with all the satellites Elon Musk is popping up into our atmosphere. So thanks to Elon with all those satellites. He's the one who's ready to put the chips in our head, but everyone seems to think he's a great guy. And then you've got the chemtrails. The chemtrails are trying to block the higher frequencies from coming in. Now, there's many more things these things are doing. It's not just one thing. a universal thing. They do many things. But then they've got those happening. And then you got to think about what else they're doing with the 5G towers. When you get this stuff in your body that they pushed over the last 2 years, with the satellites, with the 5G towers, you're going to be like an antenna. And that's what their intention is. They couldn't use the frequency fence technology back in 2001 the way they wanted to. They've had to create a new way of getting it where they can take the mental body of all humans, where they control your mental, your thinking, and you have no say anymore because they can't afford having any more resistance with this plan that they're up to. Now, just recently, I heard that, at least here in Canada, that good old Justin Trudeau was threatening some of the places in our government that if they don't get everyone, that everyone's going to lose healthcare here. Now, I'm not surprised at this. I'm not in fear of this because I understand what's going on. But here's the thing. The manipulation's getting crazy, where they're desperately trying to get everyone in. They wanted this in your bodies during the last 2 years. They took your money away. They froze your bank accounts. They wouldn't let you work. They threatened all the stuff that scares the hell out of humans. Survival, money, a home, food. You can't even go grocery shopping if you don't have this. Like when you go to that extent to threaten somebody to get something in your body, I know all of you get it. What is the end agenda? Why is it so important that has to be in every single human's body by this period of time? So the end game with this, you're probably understanding, every single human body, they're going to force this into them. If it doesn't go in this way, they're going to put it in our food now. They're going to put it in our water. Now, when you see that desperation, it's not just about eliminating humans. They need a lot of us still here. What they want to do is make sure they control every single thinking pattern you have. They don't want you to know anything that they don't know. That's why all the cameras are going up. It's absolute 1,000. This is called what's the word for it? Absolute paranoia. They can't let you or I do anything on this planet without them knowing about it because it could compromise their agenda. So once they got all of our thinking through these frequency, you can call this an upgraded frequency fence with the satellites, with the chips in the head, with what they're putting in our bodies, with the 5G towers, that will control our thinking. Now, let me explain why they're doing that. Not only just to control that. They're able to keep our frequency low, our consciousness. You've heard me say it so many times that the highest currency on the planet right now is our DNA and our consciousness. So when they can control our mental thinking, our mental body, that means our thoughts are no longer ours anymore. For a lot of us, they haven't been for a long time. But the thinkers, the free thinkers, the ones that will not comply, they're trying to get a great hold on because then they can get all of our thoughts aligned. And they will all be under the 3D fence. They will be very low in frequency. They have to be low because when this ascension cycle happens, not only does Earth have to operate at a certain frequency to ascend, which she is, so she's going. The humans that are on the planet have to up their frequency as well to at least 4-strand activation, or they can't go anywhere. When we said this is a spiritual war, it truly is. Most people don't understand what it means by New Earth. They don't understand that there's actually an ascension. We descended and we came down this matrix. Now it's time to move ourselves back up, and it happens every 26,500 years. Well, of course, none of this is going to be known to any of us unless you're awake and you've got this information that you're tapping into because we only think, some humans here think that we're only a couple thousand years old. So there's so many different belief patterns that are here because of all the bullshit they've said to us forever. So everybody has their right to believe whatever they want. It's their journey. But the thing is happening, whether we like it or not. It's outplaying in front of us. We can see it. It's getting so crazy and so chaotic that I'm grateful because I hope this is stimulating. And even the ones that are just waking up, this is absolutely crazy. Ask questions. Start to think, what is going on, right? This isn't normal. So stargates. They're lined up in our planets. Our planet, it's like a chakra system in our body. There are chakras in our planet. And there is a stargate system every 26,500 years where they all line up, right? Our galactic, our universal, our planetary, and the humans, we all line up. And down comes the DNA natural divine blueprint frequency. Now, for some of you, you may not understand what I mean. Basically, Think of anything that's made. It's made perfect. And then over time, it starts to get distorted. It gets worn out. It's not functioning at the right way it's supposed to be functioning. Well, instead of throwing it away, you can reset it back to its natural divine blueprint. And it's operating back to the way it should have been from day one. That's what this means during this stellar activation. It's resetting our natural divine blueprint back to its normal print. These are higher frequencies. They're crystalline frequencies. They're not carbon. We're carbon down here. So these higher frequencies are coming in, and it's our job, it's our responsibility, and we would already know this if our books weren't tampered with and our memories weren't wiped. We would know the cycle was coming. We would know that Earth is ascending into Terra. We're moving into 4, 5, and 6D. So that means we're getting out of this prison planet, right? But the way we have to do that is we have to raise our frequency to match it. We have to be at that level of consciousness. Well, they've had us under a very low conscious 3D frequency fence forever. So it would be very difficult for humans, even if they found this out now, to actually evolve themselves and get out of that frequency, because it's become their identity. It's their human nature now to be that low in frequency, and fear dominates them. Well, that will never, ever allow us to ascend. So because they knew, they had it set up for a very long time. Hundreds and thousands of years, humans have been living under the frequency fence. Fear has been around forever because that's how they control human beings. So as soon as they took over the planet billions of years ago, they started implementing this during our third seeding here. So this is where, even if you're just learning this now, it's not too late. But there's a massive shift in personality. There's a massive shift in your identity, because who we are as human beings is our soul imprint. It's our signature. It's our level of consciousness. And I've shared this so many times. How do you raise your codes? How do you raise your frequency? Well, you have to become a completely different person than who you have become. It's not our fault that we became these people. We were thrown into this mess from day one. But it's our responsibility to come from a more unconditional, higher, loving frequency than fear and doubt. So to come back to the Great Reset again, what this means is this. When that higher potency frequency downloads into the matrix, the stargates all open, and that natural divine 12-strand Christ consciousness blueprint resets the matrix, because the matrix is a mess. It's in a chaotic space. There's so much I can share about it right now, but I won't talk about Phantom Earth right now. But it needs to be reset, and it's going to be reset. This is why this is the biggest moment in all of human history. There's been many ascension cycles before us, but nothing's been so pivotal and so important as now, because it's either you ascend or you're gone into the phantom matrix. That's it. There's no gray areas anymore. So this is why the push for Agenda 2030 is what it is, because these off-planet races know this information. And as long as they control our minds and keep us in very low consciousness, when the Great Reset happens here and resets our natural divine blueprint, we aren't going anywhere. So they call it their Great Reset, the New World Order, because they're so confident that no one's going anywhere. Not one human's going to ascend, because they're going to control their minds. They're going to keep them like they have for hundreds of years under that 3D frequency fence. We all can be honest. I was one of them too. We were programmed this way. And unless we wake up and take total responsibility and control of our own beingness and get out of the false and the phantom false parent programs and the victim victimizer, we can't live in fear and ascend. We can't be mean people and put other people down and be judgmental of others. We won't ascend. Now, some of you may not care. A lot of people watching me right now are hybrids. They're not even human consciousness. They're Illuminati consciousness. This is where I get a lot of pushback, and I'm okay with that. But this is where people have to understand it's our responsibility to raise our own frequency. Now, some of you are aware of the Looking Glass Project. If you're not, you can go ahead and look that up. You'll find some information on it. But see, this is where they shut that particular project down, because the off-site races, the Illuminati, the hybrids, right? They didn't like the outcome because there's two timelines here, guys, that are going to split. And it's going to be the Phantom Earth, which is the Phantom Matrix that you've heard me talk about. And it's going to be New Earth, which is Terra. Okay? Our Earth is moving up into Terra. It's still our Earth. They don't blow up and disappear. Okay, but we have multiple versions of ourselves in different dimensions. It's still Earth. They're different names based on which dimension we're in. That's all. So there's two timelines. And the off-planet races are so convinced that they're going to have this amazing timeline where every human, as many as they can get into the Phantom Matrix, because that keeps them non-organically and artificially alive for just a little bit longer. But the new Earth, the ones that have enough frequency to at least move into inner Earth or new Earth, which I'll talk about inner Earth another time, that is us raising our frequency. Okay, so the Great Reset, just to go back, has nothing to do with Agenda 2030 and Klaus Schwab. These are reptilians, these are draconians, they're shapeshifters. If you guys had your 4D astral fields wide open and your fourth strand DNA plugged in, you would be able to look at them and you'd be able to tell they're not human. Okay, this is not fake. This is real. And for anybody who doesn't believe me, that's okay. I think you're on the wrong channel. But here's the thing. You don't have to necessarily see them. You just know. There's something in your cellular memory. Because here's the thing, guys. They did wipe our memories, but they can't clear and clean our DNA, which is where our cellular memories are. This information I share with you helps you remember. So I just wanted to come on because something was giving me a calling to give you an outline to maybe understand what's going on a little more easier if you don't already have it under your belt. That, with all the push, right, and what they're going to do with our food, I don't want you guys to be afraid because that's still part of the system. Here's the real honest thing. If any of us are still afraid, we're still part of the Phantom Matrix. If any of us are still judging, if any of us are competing or scarcity, in fear, we are part of the system still. And that is not unconditional love, high frequency. So I can't be more blatant than that for people who are watching me, that it's okay if you can own that's already in your body, because we were programmed to be these people. We weren't born this way. But for us to be able to move into inner Earth or move into new Earth, we need to take full responsibility and stay out of the blame game. We need to clear these phantoms, shadows out of our bodies because they're not normal. They're artificial. And so I want also for you guys to know this. We're 12-strand DNA human divine beings. We have had our DNA unplugged at usually 3 and 4 for most of since 25,550 BC. This is why the Great Awakening is something that scares them and something they really are worried about. That's why they want to take control of your mind, because we're getting information and we're waking up. And if they control our minds, then that will stop us from waking up. It'll confuse us. It won't allow those higher frequencies in. This is why they're doing what they're doing too. I told you there's so many reasons for why they're doing what they're doing. There's not one reason. But they want to block out those higher frequencies that are coming down into some of you and definitely into me, where we're accessing this information and we're sharing it to other people because we're waking people up, because this information is in the cells of your body. Now, why I'm sharing this is because we're 12-strand. What I mean is this. When the ascension cycle and that frequency comes down the stargates, when it resets us all back to our natural divine blueprint. You've all heard me say that if we have at least 30% of our natural divine blueprint still operating in our DNA, then we're going to be able to take this high frequency and be able to move. We're able to still move. But if it's lower than 30%, that's the grid's too damaged. It just won't work. Our DNA blueprint has been too much metatronically reversed. And so this is where I want to share with you, don't be afraid. You're bigger than this. So when they try to threaten us with putting stuff in our food and in this and all that, if we understand this and raise our frequency and get out from under the 3D frequency fence and all of the phantom programs and behaviors, you can override anything. And indigos and starseeds, some of them have anywhere between 12 strand to 48 strands of DNA. Not necessarily activated right now, but the potentiality for it is there. So this is where I mean, they are only activating some of them at 11.5 and down, but it's reversed. It's not even our natural divine organic source imprint anymore. It's in reverse. It's called metatronic reversal, and it's inorganic. It's artificial. And the only way they've been able to stay around as long as they have to this day is by being energy vampires, using our consciousness. Hence why it's so low, because this is called loosh and it feeds them. And this is what they're doing and what they have been doing. So heaven forbid any of us break free from that. They can't feed off of unconditional love frequencies. They can't feed off of anyone who thinks, because we're going to start to think higher than under the fence. So this is why they've manipulated us to the point and held us under here for so long, which most people call what? The prison planet? So as you can see, I'm just giving you some information just for you guys to go do your own due diligence, put some pieces of the puzzle together, and just look around. Look at everything that's being kind of pushed, even in these. It's all technology. It's artificial technology. It's DNA altering. It's mRNA programming. It's like computer chips, not only in this, but also in your head. It's in the chemicals they're spraying in the air. It's in our water and now our food. It's everywhere. It's technology. You got the 5G towers popping up, and then of course the billions of satellites that Elon's putting in our skies and our atmosphere. So all of this is called frequency and technology, because we are electromagnetic beings. We emanate a frequency. That's how you control us. Thoughts are frequencies. Food has frequencies. So when they control your thinking, when they give you foods that have a certain low frequency in it, and we're embodying all that stuff, you keep us under a low frequency. That's why the Great Awakening, guys, scares them.